800 shipboard landings. After earning a master's degree in ocean engineering from MIT and Woods Old Oceanographic Institution, Captain Lawrence was selected as an astronaut in 1992 and worked at NASA for 14 years. Her first flight was STS-67, was on board Endeavour. It was the second mission for the Astro Observatory, a unique complement of 3 telescopes used to study ultraviolet light coming from hot stars and distant galaxies. Her next 2 missions docked with the Russian space station Mir. Captain Lawrence's last flight was the first shuttle return to flight mission following the loss of the orbiter, Columbia, and her crew. This flight evaluated new procedures for the inspection and repair of the shuttle's orbiter thermal protection system. Captain Lawrence has spent over 50 days in space, orbiting the Earth approximately 800 times and traveling roughly 20 million miles. Help me introduce Miss Wendy Lawrence.
Yay! Thank you and good afternoon. Full day, I know, for some of you, because you've just come from graduation like me. It's always very fun. So, we have a few minutes for me to talk with you a little bit about what we're doing on board the International Space Station, and I'm just going to tell you right up front, if you have a question, ask me as I go along. We're a little rushed today, so I apologize about that. So just raise your hand and I'll take a break and I'll answer your question to the best of my ability. So with that, hopefully that'll work. All right, some of you are wondering about my astronaut story. Well, as I was telling the trainees yesterday, I feel jealous because I'm too old to have attended space camp. It was not in place when I was their age, but I had the privilege of growing up during the Apollo program. And for me, it was all about Apollo 11 and watching Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walk on the moon. That became the childhood dream. Yes. That's very much what I wanted to do, was have a chance to be an astronaut and fly in space. So growing up in a Navy family, I just went with family tradition. Like my mother's dad and my dad went to the United States Naval Academy. Unlike them, though, as a naval aviator, I didn't want to fly airplanes. I wanted to fly helicopters because I love the fact that you can go sideways and backwards and hover, and you did a variety of things. And as I was telling the trainees yesterday, what I really liked was you were always part of the team. You were always part of the crew. So I flew for many years as a Navy helicopter pilot, but the dream always was to become an astronaut. So you feel quite privileged that I had an opportunity to climb on board the space shuttle 4 times. First flight on Endeavour doing astronomy, next one on Atlantis up to Mir, and then last 2 on Discovery. So on the last flight, I got to go up to the International Station and do a little bit of that construction. I think you can see the piece that I added somewhere there. But this is the International Space Station now, virtually in its completed form. Truly a marvel of engineering in my humble assessment. This thing, if we could bring it back down to Earth from this edge to that edge, would span the length of an American football field. It's huge, like I said, and it took many, many flights to assemble it. Pieces built literally all over the world. And for scientists, it creates a very interesting and a very unique environment. Because even though at 250 miles above the Earth's surface, we are still very much in Earth's gravitational field, as you go around the planet very fast, 5 miles a second, or about 8 kilometers a second, you're in a free fall condition. So you're falling under the influence of gravity. For everything on board, including the crew, that means we're no longer subjected to the pull of gravity. And again, for scientists, it creates an environment that they cannot easily create down here on Earth. The ability to, in essence, take away gravity and do that for a very long period of time. So that leads to some fascinating types of research that are being done. This is astronaut Nicole Stott. She's in front of what's called the combustion facility. For the astronauts, this basically means they have an opportunity to light things on fire, and who wouldn't want to do that? And I think when the scientists probably came up with this idea for this field of research, they had no idea about the pretty interesting results that they were going to get. So I bet everybody has seen a candle, if not lit one in their lifetime. They all recognize the shape of the flame. kind of get this teardrop shape. We have a range of colors. It tends to be blue on the bottom, white on the top, white hot. This is the hottest part of the flame. When in essence you do that same thing up on orbit, what you get instead, the scientists have seen towards the end of the fire going out, is this blue ball of flame. So the shape of the flame is different. The blue throughout means you now get this more uniform temperature throughout the flame. And it also burns about 1,000 degrees cooler than it would down here on Earth. And the scientists, the first time they realized that this was happening, were completely amazed because they don't understand why this is happening. They fundamentally do not understand this. But they do understand that if they could ever figure out how to create this down here on Earth, there would be a very important application. Because when a flame burns at a cooler temperature, it does not pollute as much. It doesn't create as many combustion products. So if you can create an internal combustion engine down here and have it run at this cooler temperature, you would end up not polluting the planet as much. So we'll give you a quick view, video-wise. Again, you can see more of that blue ball of fire here as it's burning the flame and extinguish. So much more combustion research will be done, which I got to do a combustion research in my third mission, and will be very fun for the crew. Again, no gravity. So yes, we play with our food. It is fascinating to squeeze water out of your drink bag. No, it doesn't go splat on whatever's deemed the floor. Now it's the attraction between the water molecules that tends to be your dominant force. And eventually you have to stick your straw in the middle of that and clean it up or blot it up with a washcloth. But the way fluids behave on orbit, very interesting. Another type of research that needs to be done because we're still using fluids in our life support systems and our chemical propulsion systems. And so another type of experiment that was being done up there is called the capillary flow experiment. I think if you ever have played with water in a straw, you've seen the fluid break up the side. Still does that up in space. For the crews, honestly, this experiment is not all that exciting to them. They kind of set it up and it's like blah, 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 blah. But we've been doing it for a few years now. And honestly, the crew will tell you they really like the results of the experiment because after doing this and learning more about how fluids move in space, somebody figured out how to design a coffee cup. No longer do you have to drink your coffee through a straw, which I will tell you during my 4 missions, I never did. I am a coffee fan. I would get up every launch day and have my cup of coffee, go into space and go, nope, I can't do it. I cannot drink coffee through a straw. So I'm very jealous and envious now that the crew on board the International Space Station has a way to drink their coffee in a real cup. So I like to show this picture because this is Samantha Cristoforetti. We have heard of her. She is a space camp alum. She was a member of the Italian Air Force when she flew on board the International Space Station several years ago and got to spend about 199 days in space. And being a member of the Italian Space Agency, we do have to love the Italians. They wanted to make sure Samantha had lots of creature comforts from home, so God bless them, they figured out how to design an espresso machine for her. I know, it would have been fun to fly with Sam.
Oh my goodness.
All right, Oliver. Where's Oliver? Radiation, we were just talking about that at lunch, right? Oliver is a bright young man, he's going to figure out how to solve this problem for us. So, what they don't tell you when you become an astronaut and you start training for your mission is that you too are going to be an experiment. You basically are a nice lab rat for the medical doctors who want to know more about what happens to the human body when we put it up in this really interesting environment. So one of the significant concerns we have, and this is definitely going to affect any crews that go back towards the vicinity of the moon and eventually on to Mars, is once you are up in space, you are exposed to a lot of radiation. It's not so much of a big issue for crews who are on the International Space Station because they're still protected by the Earth's magnetic field. But once we venture away from that, we get bombarded by things called solar particle events. Think of coronal mass ejections, oftentimes they're called solar flares, so think of that. And then there's this background radiation of space called galactic cosmic rays. Very energetic radiation. What happens in this, it can damage the DNA in the body, and that damage doesn't get repaired correctly. Eventually, it could lead to the formation of cancerous tumors in the body. So we've got to figure out a way to protect the crew from that. And so we're using the space station to do some radiation measurements, but really the challenge is to find a lightweight shielding material that will protect the crew. And again, this is one of our big challenges for the journey to Mars and the time that the crew's on the surface of the planet. So again, you are a lab rat. And you will get poked and prodded and examined. And the poor crews on the space station, for every month they're in orbit, part of that month is spent doing pretty intensive physical examinations, as you can see here. Your heart rate monitors on as you exercise. They're measuring what you exhale. And we've learned over the many years that we've had crew members on the space station that there are some changes to the body that occur that are not good. And some of them are lasting. And it wasn't really until we had crew members on the International Space Station spending months at a time that we realized that they were seeing vision changes. About halfway through the mission, their eyes would get more and more blurry, and they were having a hard time reading their checklists. And for a handful of those astronauts, they came back down to Earth, and those vision changes were permanent. All right, do you want to make the answer, or do you want? I'll make it, I'm here. So all those sirens that are going off, this is the benefit of having lived in the South before. I pretty much knew that we had some severe weather coming in. I did not understand, and I have not had a chance with the radar, but we are actually under a tornado warning, and we need to evacuate. I'm going to turn you over to the Space Camp professionals to tell us what we need to do next.
All right, hello, my name is Jen Baden. We do have some severe weather coming, so just to take some safety precautions, we ask you guys gather your belongings quickly and make your way over to the main museum. Thank you so much.